The forecast said, snow showers. That's the exact phrase that got me to throw my pack in the trunk like I was beating the clock on some fun little weekend reset. Snow showers. By the time I reached the pull-off, the world was already turning white in that slow, steady way that makes you feel like you're inside a shaken snow globe. It wasn't blizzard conditions yet, just thick flakes and wind that kept changing its mind. Kind of weather where you can still hear your own boots in the powder and convince yourself you're fine. I signed the trail register with a pen that didn't want to work. My glove made my handwriting look like a toddler's. There was one other name above mine from earlier that morning. No notes. No back by sunset. Just a name and a time that felt too early to still matter. The first half mile in, I started second-guessing myself, not because I was scared, because every tree looked the same. Snow eats landmarks. Trail blazes disappear when they got frosting on them. Tracks turn into soft dents, and then into nothing. Your world shrinks to whatever your headlamp hits, and mine wasn't even on yet. I kept going away because that's how I am. If I've committed to something, I'll drag it behind me like a bad decision on a leash. I picked a spot the way I always do, not too close to water, not in a low pocket where cold air settles, not under dead branches. A little rise off the trail with a couple of thick trunks to break the wind. Nothing dramatic. Just a place that looked like it'd still be there when I woke up. Setting up in the snow is never graceful. I stamped out a rectangle with my boots until the powder packed down, dug out a shallow trench for my vestibule so I wouldn't be crawling into a drift, anchored my guy lines with buried sticks because the ground was too frozen for stakes. My fingers went numb halfway through. I told myself it was fine because I had a sleeping bag rated way colder than this, and a stove, and those little hand warmers that smell like pennies when they would heat up. Should have been simple. It should have been cold. While I worked, the woods kept doing that thing where it goes quiet in patches. Not the normal snow muffles sound quiet. I mean the kind where you realize you haven't heard a bird in a while. No squirrel chatter, no little taps from branches. Just wind and the soft hiss of snow landing on nylon. The first time I noticed, I actually stopped. And I listened I expected someone to clear their throat behind the tree, you know. It's nothing. I finished pitching the tent and went to fetch more deadfall for a small fire. Not to be dramatic, you know, just because fire makes the dark feel less personal. That's when I saw the tracks. They weren't mine. I mean, mine were boot-shaped, predictable. These were longer, like someone had taken a shovel and dragged it, toe first. A single line of impressions deep enough to show wet under the powder, each one spaced too far apart to be walking normally. I followed them without thinking. 10 steps. 20. They went in a straight line between two stands of pine, and then they stopped at a scoured patch where the wind had polished the snow down to hardpack near exposed stone. No clear turn, no tidy return trail, just the last drag mark faded into a surface that didn't hold detail the way fresh powder does. I stood there with my gloved hand still gripping a dead branch, staring at the last mark until the storm started filling everything in. The wind picked up, a spray of powder hit my face, and that's when I heard something behind me. No footsteps, more like a slow drag. Like someone pulling a heavy bag over crusted snow. I whipped around fast enough to almost lose my balance, and all I saw was the thinning light between trees and my own breath, and the start of my boot trail back to camp. The dragging sound stopped the second I turned. I did the thing you're not supposed to do. I called out, "Hello?" My voice sounded wrong, like it didn't belong in the woods. No answer, of course. I told myself it was a branch. A deer. The wind moving a downed log, anything that fit into the normal world. Then I noticed something I hadn't the first time. Those long tracks weren't centered the way a person would be. They weren't two parallel lines like skis either. They were slightly off, like whatever made them had one side of its body heavier than the other. Like it leaned. I carried the branch back to camp and tried to shake it off. I got my fire going with a little stove fuel and stubbornness. The flame fought the wind, but didn't quit. It popped, it snapped like it was annoyed. I ate a sad dinner standing up. Instant noodles in a metal cup, because sitting on snow makes your body remember exactly what heat is worth. I kept turning my head to check the trees, not because I saw anything, but because my brain kept insisting I should. The storm thickened in layers. It wasn't just snow now. It was snow with teeth. Gusts that shoved it sideways, flakes stinging my cheeks, visibility dropping until the firelight felt like a little island. Everything outside it was just a wall. I crawled into the tent early, not because I was tired, because being outside started to feel like being watched through frosted glass. Inside, everything was close and loud. Nylon breathing, zippers clicking, my sleeping bag squeaking every time I shifted. I stripped off wet layers and stuffed them into a bag so they wouldn't freeze into boards. I checked my phone. It's no service, obviously. The battery already draining faster than it should be in the cold. I lay there with my headlamp off, listening. Wind, snow, tent fabric snapping. Then very faint, then a drag again. Not outside the tent. Further out, somewhere between the tree line and the trail. Drag, pause, drag, pause, drag. I held my breath like that mattered. The dragging got closer, slow, patient. I sat up and turned my headlamp on. The beam turned the inside of my tent into a bright little fish tank. I stared at the nylon like I could see through it if I stared hard enough. Drag. Pause. Then something touched the outside of the tent. Not a gust, not snow sliding, a pressure, deliberate, like a palm placed flat against it. The fabric bowed inward and held. I didn't move. I don't mean I stayed calm. I mean my body went rigid in a way that felt automatic. Pressure slid just a little, like whatever was out there was feeling along the seam. It stopped near the zipper. I grabbed my knife. I always carry a small, fixed blade for camping stuff, cutting cords, shaving, kindling. It looked stupid in my hand suddenly, like bringing a pocket knife to an argument with the weather. The fabric at the zipper pulled, not the zipper itself, the fabric around it, like fingers trying to find purchase. I didn't think. I lunged forward and shoved both hands against the door, pushing back from the inside, tried to keep whatever it was from getting any leverage. For a second, there was resistance. Real resistance. Something solid. And then the pressure vanished. The tent snapped back into place. Silence. I sat there in that awful bright circle of headlamp light, sweating in my base layer, waiting for something else to happen. Nothing happened. And that was worse, right? After a few minutes, I forced myself to breathe normally. I clicked the headlamp to red mode, unzipped the door just enough to look out. Snow blasted it immediately, cold and sharp. I squinted into it. The beam of my light got swallowed fast. Just a short cone before it dissolved into white. I couldn't see anything. But I could see the marks. There were fresh impressions right outside my vestibule, partially filling with snow. No boot prints, no animal tracks, those long, leaning drags ending inches from my door, and mixed in with them, very faint, were thinner lines, like something with nails, claws, like they'd raked the snow as it moved. The prints didn't lead away, they circled my tent. Not a clean circle, more like it had paced around, stopping, staring, doubling back, then pressing close again. I zipped the tent shut so hard the teeth snagged. And that's when I heard it. A sound that made my stomach drop because it was trying badly to be familiar. It was a voice. Not a word, not a sentence. Just a low, throaty attempt at the shape of a human sound. The way a parrot can mimic a laugh without understanding it. It came from somewhere beyond the trees, past the edge of my light. It went, "Hey." Soft, almost polite. Then silence. Then closer. "Hey." The second one had more breath in it, more confidence. I pressed my mouth onto my sleeve to keep my own breathing quiet, like a kid hiding under covers. "Hey." I tried again. So close, I felt it more than heard it, like the nylon was carrying the vibration. The voice was wrong in a way I can't explain without sounding dramatic. It wasn't scary because it was loud. It was scary because it wasn't quite right, like something had listened to people speak from far away and decided it could do it too. My headlamp beam shook as my hand shook. The tent wall bulged inward again. This time it didn't feel like a palm. This time it felt like a face pressed into it. I saw the shape of it in the nylon, an oval with ridges like bone or cartilage. The fabric stretched across it and held, showing the suggestion of where eyes would be, where a mouth would be. The mouth moved. Cold. Then with a little laugh, it sounded like someone choking. You cold. I don't know why that broke me, but it did. I kicked at the wall where its head was pressed hard enough to make my heel sting. The shape snapped back, the nylon popped outward. Outside, something made a noise like wet fabric being pulled apart. Then the dragging started again, faster, circling. Drag, 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 drag. The whole tent shivered with each pass, like it was brushing against it, bumping it, testing it. I grabbed my car keys, not because I was going to drive, because the alarm button felt like the only weapon I had that wasn't a joke. I crawled into my boots, hands shaking so bad I missed the laces twice. I stuffed my sleeping bag into its sack without rolling it, just crammed it down, threw what I could into my pack half zipped. I had one thought, clear and bright in my head: get to the car. The storm was thick enough that I couldn't see the trail from my tent. I had to follow my own boot line by feel, like reading Braille with my feet. I unzipped the tent and I bolted out. The cold hit me so hard it made my eyes water instantly. Snow slapped my face. Wind shoved my pack like it wanted me on the ground. I took 3 steps and almost fell because the snow had drifted into my boot prints. Behind me something moved. Not dragging now, running. It hit my tent on the side with a heavy thump, like it had launched itself at it the second I left, and the whole structure collapsed in on itself. Poles flexed, snapped back, and then folded. My little island of shelter crumpled like a kicked soda can. That gave me a horrible, vivid image of being angry that I was leaving. So I ran. My headlamp beam bouncing wildly, making the woods strobe. Trees appeared and vanished. My own breath sounded like an engine failing. Then something grabbed my pack. It yanked me back so hard my spine jolted. I went down on one knee, pack straps biting into my shoulders. My first thought was that a branch had hooked it, and then the pack moved sideways, smooth and strong, and I realized whatever had it was pulling. I twisted around and my light hit it for just a half second. It was low to the ground, but long. Too long. Its body was pale in a way that didn't look like fur or skin, more like packed snow pressed into the shape of something alive. It had limbs, but they didn't bend right. They hinged, too, many times, and its head looked like it was wearing a face that didn't fit it. Like it had pressed a mask of frozen skin onto bone. The mouth opened, and I saw dark inside, wet and wrong. It didn't roar, didn't snarl. It went softly like it was still practicing. Hey. And then it jerked again, trying to pull me off the trail. I did the only thing that made sense. I let my pack go. The strap slipped off my shoulders and the thing went with it, tugging it into the white like it was weighing nothing at all. I scrambled up and I sprinted. Behind me, the dragging returned for a second as it adjusted, and then it came after me with a new sound, a rapid tapping like nails on crushed snow. I could hear it gaining. My foot punched through a thin crust, and I went down hard, my shin smacking something buried beneath. Rock or root, I still don't know. Pain flashed hot and then went oddly dull. I tried to get up, but my leg didn't want to cooperate. I forced it anyway, half running, half limping, tears freezing at the corner of my eyes. My headlamp beam caught the trail register sign ahead like a miracle, a reflective rectangle in the storm. The pull-off was close. I hit the edge of the lot and saw my car as a dark shape under white. I fumbled my keys so bad I dropped them. I had to find them by feeling in the snow, fingers clawing, panic, making everything clumsy. I got them, I jammed the key into the door, I yanked it open, nearly falling into the seat. The tapping sound was right behind me now. I slammed the door, the car rocked. Something hit the side hard enough to make the whole damn frame creak. I locked the doors out of instinct, like a lock meant anything against whatever that was. The windshield was already frosting, snow plastered against it. I turned the key and the engine coughed once, then nothing. Battery cold-soaked. The car had decided to join the storm in being useless. Another impact, this time on the hood. I looked up through the windshield and saw the shape on the glass, inches away, sliding down slowly. Not a face, not fully, just a pale oval, pressing against the windshield from the other side, leaving a smeared patch where frost melted under it. The mouth moved, muscled through glass. "You cold," it said. Then it made the choking laugh again. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely press the panic button, but I did. The car erupted into noise, horns blaring, lights flashing, a ridiculous, desperate alarm in the middle of nowhere. The shape flinched. It peeled off the hood and dropped into the snow, that long, jointed motion. The head turned towards the sound like it didn't understand it, like it was hearing a new kind of animal. It took a step back, and then another. I hit the ignition again and again, begging the engine like it was a person. On the fourth try, It caught. The heater fan whined weakly. The headlights cut through the snow in two pale tunnels. I threw the car into reverse without thinking about traction, and the tires spun, then grabbed, then slid. I fishtailed, corrected, and backed onto the road like I was fleeing a burning building. In my rearview mirror, through the chaos of white, I saw it standing at the edge of the lot, not chasing now, just watching. It lifted one arm slowly, like someone waving goodbye. Then it raised its hand to its mouth, pressed fingers against it, and moved them like it was shaping sound. "Hey," it said one last time. And it sounded closer to normal than it should have. I drove until I heard pavement that looked plowed and saw lights in the distance. The shaking didn't stop. My shin had swollen under my pants, and when I finally dared to pull over somewhere with a street lamp, I saw blood seeping through the fabric where I'd slammed it on whatever was under that snow crust. The next morning, after I'd gotten my leg looked at, I went to the ranger station. I asked about the other name on the trail register. The woman behind the counter went still for a second, told me the register wasn't for public discussion, and that if I wanted information, I'd file a report. She didn't meet my eyes when she said that. At urgent care, they did an x-ray and told me nothing was broken, then rinsed the cut, put in a few stitches anyway, because the rock had split me open clean through the skin. And I kept replaying the way those drag marks circled my tent, stopping at the zipper like it knew what that seam meant. I kept thinking about the way it practiced that one word over and over, like it was trying to get the tone right. And every time I caught myself wanting to write it off as some kind of storm panic, I remember the pressure of something solid through the tent wall and the sound it made when it peeled away wet and wrong. And I haven't slept outside since.